Why there is so much lag? So good morning. Hope you can hear me clearly. Please let me know if you can hear me, and you can see the notes that are shown on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I think there is some network issues, so we'll manage with this. But sometimes there may be some lag. Means my voice will not sync with the mouse cursor what I am showing. So you have to bear with that. So you will see that my voice is going ahead and the mouse cursor is lagging, or whatever is shown on screen is lagging. So because of slower internet connection, sometimes this lag happens. So what we are going to do is we are going to continue our discussion on this Rankine cycle, simple power plant. And I was not able to prepare because I am traveling. I was not able to prepare that additional document on the properties of material, pure substance. So you guys can read from the book of Chengalbos, or I will prepare it, but maybe towards the end of this week once I return back, and so that you get an idea. Although that is not part of the course, but you should get an idea about. If you are not sure, you should have read in thermodynamics, but to get a revision, you can go through it to get an understanding of this two-phase region, then saturation curves, things like that, TS diagrams. Anyway, so we are discussing about power plants, and we saw that there are four major processes in a power plant. First is the isentropic compression using a pump, where we need some work input. Okay, and it's an isentropic process, so there is no heat transfer across this interface. Okay. Then we have the heat addition in the boiler, so which is like the high temperature heat addition, analogous to the high temperature heat addition for a heat engine. Okay, and this occurs at constant pressure. So constant pressure heat addition. Then again isentropic process, isentropic expansion. So pressure and temperature goes down isentropically. There is no heat loss. And finally we have constant pressure heat removal in the condenser. So all the other associated devices that you have seen in the general power plant that we had discussed in the previous class are additional to these main components. Okay, these four components are the necessities, and with these four components, a simple power plant can be devised. However, additional components are there to improve the efficiency or to remove impurities or other practical aspects. Okay, but from thermodynamics point of view, only these four main components are necessary to run a power plant, and we know that we need heat addition at from high temperature reservoir, heat removal to a low temperature reservoir, and some net work output to complete a heat engine cycle, and that is what we are seeing here. And we have discussed that with certain assumptions we can call this as a or we can model this as a Rankine cycle. What are the assumptions that we have discussed? All the processes are internally reversible. No pressure losses in the pipeline. So pressure at this point outside the turbine is equal to the pressure entering the condenser. This is an assumption that we are taking. In real life, there will be pressure loss. Okay. And steady flow process. It means that with time, at any point in or within the turbine or anywhere, with time there is no change in the state. So if this at this moment the temperature here is 300 degrees centigrade, after 2 hours also it is 300 degrees centigrade. Similarly, mass flow rate also remains constant. So we can do all the calculation based on per unit mass flow rate. So with these assumptions, these processes that occur within these devices can be modeled by using a Rankine cycle. And we have also looked at the Rankine cycle, but later look at it again today to get a better understanding. So we will start with, so I have kept the same diagram open on the right hand side. Okay. So that you can correlate the TS diagram or the process diagram with the component diagram. This is known as the component diagram. This is known as the process diagram, or the TS diagram or thermodynamic diagram. So we will be able to relate this cycle with this actual components. Please feel free to ask questions, okay? Because this part, although this is very easy, but because you have learned thermodynamics long back, you might not recall all the things. So it might seem tricky in the beginning. Once you have gone through a few classes, it will seem quite easy for you, because all these are very similar, means or say they follow a very neat pattern. So there is not much difficulty in trying to understand this type of processes. So we will start with this point 1. Anywhere we could have taken the point 1 in the cycle. Let us take this point 1 just before the pump. Okay. But it could have been anywhere else also. Remember, it can be anywhere else also. It's a closed cycle. The same stream is going on again and again. It is not that we are bringing new water from somewhere else. The same fluid is circulating again and again. There may be small steam losses, so some additional makeup water may be used, but in general, the same stream is flowing again and again. So from this point 1 to 2, we have an isentropic process. Isentropic process in TS diagram is a vertical line because entropy remains constant. So it's either vertical line which goes towards the top or goes towards the bottom. Compression, for compression, the temperature increases slightly because we are compressing the fluid. So the isentropic process looks like this. It goes from the bottom to the top in the pump. Now remember that what I am showing here is very exaggerated. It means that in real life, or you can intuitively guess that if I pump a liquid, the temperature is not going to rise much. There will be slight increase in temperature, but we know from practical experience that there is not much increase in temperature even if you pump the liquid to a higher pressure. Okay, but there will be slight increase in temperature, and that is what we are seeing here. Okay, but I have drawn in an exaggerated manner so as to clearly show the difference between point 1 and 2. Otherwise, point 1 and 2 will be very near to each other. So this point 1 is typically at the saturated liquid condition. What is saturated liquid? Saturated liquid is the liquid which is just at the boiling temperature but is in liquid form. Okay, for that pressure it is at the boiling temperature. Okay, whatever is the pressure here, corresponding to that pressure it is at the boiling temperature but still in liquid form. Okay, so all the saturated liquid points for different pressures can be plotted together and connected together through this red line. Okay, so this demarcates, or this line shows the locus of the loci of the saturated liquid points, okay, at different pressures. For example, the pressure at 1 may be much less than the pressure at 2 dash. Okay, but both are saturated liquid, both are at the boiling point, but at different pressures. Similarly, on the other hand side, this red line demarcates the loci of all the points which are at saturated vapor condition. Saturated vapor condition is still at the boiling point, but now comprises of vapor phase, only vapor phase, 100% vapor, okay, at the boiling point. And if you join the saturated liquid and saturated vapor line, in between at any point, you will have a combination of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. So for example, for this process 2 dash to 3, we will come back to this process, but I am just reminding you of what is the saturated liquid and saturated vapor. Between 2 dash to 3, we will have a combination of vapor and liquid. Okay, so if we are near to the 2 dash point, we will have more liquid. If we are near to the 3 point, we will have more vapor. And at 3, the entire liquid would have got converted to vapor phase. Okay, so this is known as saturated vapor. Any point on the left hand side of the saturated liquid line is known as subcooled liquid or compressed liquid. Okay, subcooled, it means that it is at a temperature which is lower than the boiling temperature for that pressure. Any point which is on the right hand side of this red line is known as superheated vapor. It means that it is at a condition which is higher, which is at higher temperature as compared to the boiling temperature for that pressure. So if we consider fluid at 100, water at 100 degrees centigrade, 1 atmospheric pressure, we know that the boiling point is 100 degrees centigrade. So if the water vapor is at 150 degrees centigrade at 1 atmospheric pressure, we will call it as superheated vapor. Okay. So just these three things you have to know. So on the left hand side we have compressed liquid or subcooled liquid. In between we have liquid plus vapor in the saturation dome. And the right hand side we have superheated vapor. Okay. These three things are very important to know. So let us come back to our Rankine cycle. Any questions?
No, sir.
Just checking whether how many students have joined. So okay. So let us start from this point 1 again. Point 1 is saturated liquid. Okay. So how is it ensured that it is saturated liquid? So from the condenser it comes at saturated liquid. The function of the condenser is to condense the vapor into liquid phase. And it is designed in such a way so that, or the heat transfer is calculated in such a way so that after this condensation it comes out as saturated liquid at some pressure, at a low pressure. Okay, I will give you some values of typical pressure and temperature. So this point 1 may be at a pressure of around 10 kilopascal, 10 kPa, and temperature may be around 40. For that pressure it is around 48 degree. So it may be slightly less than 10 kPa, around 40 degrees centigrade. Okay. And so you can imagine that 10 kPa means less than atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure is 100 kPa. So at 10 kPa means at this low pressure, the boiling temperature is also low. So at 10 kPa, typically the boiling temperature is around 48 degrees centigrade. Okay. So this point is at around at the temperature 48 degrees centigrade and 10 kPa pressure. It can be lower than 10 kPa. It can be 5 kPa and around 30 degrees centigrade also. It depends on the design. We will have a discussion on this later on, like what should be the typical pressure here. But it is at a sub-atmospheric pressure, means pressure is lower than the atmospheric pressure in the condenser. So now from this pressure, there is a series of pumps. I am showing one schematically, but there is a series of pumps, and the pressure is increased to a very high pressure. Typically, this very high pressure is 10 to 15 MPa. Okay. So say that 10 MPa pressure. 10 MPa you can imagine 100 atmospheric pressure. So there is at least 1,000 times increase in pressure that occurs here through a series of pumps. Large change in pressure occurs, okay, in this isentropic process. Now we are at a point which is at 10 MPa. Temperature is slightly larger than the previous temperature. Maybe instead of 30, instead of 48, it is 49 or 50, something like that. Just randomly putting some values. Now from this point, we are considering heat addition in the boiler. Typically, these are separate processes in the actual turbine. In the actual steam generator. This part goes through the economizer. This part goes through the steam drum. But for this thermodynamic cycle, we will consider this entire process from 2 to 3 as the heat addition in the boiler, okay, as a single process. And this entire process occurs in a constant pressure environment. So the pressure remains constant because we are ignoring the pressure losses. So we will follow a constant pressure line, and constant pressure line looks like this. In the subcooled region, it is somewhat almost parallel to this two-phase region line, means saturated curve line. So it follows a path like this. And if you keep on heating this, means you are adding heat, ultimately it will reach the boiling temperature, okay, for that pressure. So around 10 MPa pressure, the boiling temperature may be quite high. Okay, it can be more than 300 degrees centigrade. I don't remember the exact value, but it must be around 300 degrees centigrade. Okay. So boiling temperature is quite high because you have compressed it through so high pressure, the boiling temperature is very high. So we have that temperature, still keep it heating. So if we keep on heating additionally, what will happen? Now the liquid which is at saturated condition, it was initially at subcooled condition, but after heating we have brought it to saturated condition. Now with further heating, vapor starts forming, and through vaporization the entire liquid gets converted to vapor. So we follow this path from 2 to 3, and the entire liquid gets converted to vapor at point 3. Okay. So at this point we stop the heating, means the steam comes out of the boiler. Okay. So from 2 to 3 is the constant pressure heat addition in the steam. So this 2 to 3 line is a constant pressure line. Constant pressure lines look like this in the two-phase region, in the subcooled region, and in the two-phase regions they are horizontal, means the temperature also remains constant. And this is clear from our common sense also, means we have seen in day-to-day activities that at constant pressure the boiling occurs at a constant temperature. For example, at 1 atmospheric pressure, boiling occurs at 100 degrees centigrade. So temperature remains constant during boiling. So same thing happens at any temperature or any pressure. At 10 MPa pressure, the boiling temperature may be 300 degrees centigrade. I don't know, I have to check the exact value, but let us assume it is 300 degrees centigrade. Okay. So the temperature remains constant up to this point. Now this steam, which has lot of energy, in what form does this energy, is this energy present? It is in the form of enthalpy. It has very high enthalpy, means it has very high temperature and pressure, this steam. Now we want to utilize that energy for running the turbine. So we pass it through a series of blades in the turbine. So again, in thermodynamics, we will consider a single turbine. Okay. And the process in the turbine is an isentropic expansion process. So isentropically, the temperature and pressure goes down. So you remember we have just talked in a few minutes back, is a vertical line because entropy remains constant. And because the energy is decreasing and temperature and pressures are decreasing, you go vertically down. Okay. And exit at a pressure from the turbine, you exit at a pressure 4, which is equal to the pressure 1. Okay. This pressure is known as the condenser pressure. The pressure from 2 to 3 is same and is known as the boiler pressure, and the pressure from 4 to 1 is the low pressure, which is known as the condenser pressure. So in the cycle you have two types of pressure. One is the high pressure from 2 to 3, which is the boiler pressure, and one is the low pressure from 4 to 1, which is the condenser pressure. Okay. So this turbine exit occurs at the condenser pressure. Okay, it is designed in such a way, the turbine is designed in such a way so that the turbine exit occurs at the condenser pressure and the corresponding temperature. For that pressure, again the temperature, what will be the temperature for this? It will be same 48 degree or whatever is the temperature for 10 kilopascal. Okay. So temperature will be same as equal to that of 0.1, okay, because it is on the same horizontal line. However, the state is not same. At this point, the state is such that most of it is vapor. More than 90% is vapor, and only few percent is liquid. Okay. Now this mostly vapor steam. So this two-phase mixture is also known as steam. Okay. So mostly vapor steam is passed through the condenser, and in the condenser we know that heat is taken out by circulating cold water through the condenser, and as a result the steam condenses back to liquid water, saturated water. Okay. This completes our cycle, Rankine cycle. Any questions on the Rankine cycle or the two-phase regions, things like that? If you are not clear, you have to read the thermodynamics books, and get the do a revision of the thermodynamics part that you have studied in the thermodynamics course. Okay, not for the Rankine cycle, but for this properties of pure substance. Means what is liquid vapor region, saturated, enthalpy, entropy, things like that, which are very basic of thermodynamics. These things should be very clear to you. Nothing else is required in this course. So if there are no questions, let us try to analyze each of these processes one by one and see what happens in each process. Okay. So now I am going to keep this process diagram open here, and we will keep referring to it, and we will analyze these processes, okay, one by one. So 1 to 2 we will consider first. 1 to 2 is the isentropic compression form. Okay. So let us do a very quick recap of the thermodynamics that is required for analyzing these processes. On the right hand side, I am showing a very quick recap of the first law of thermodynamics, okay, which is very much essential to study this process. First law itself is sufficient to study these processes. So before going to the process in the pump, I will give you a very quick review of the first law of thermodynamics. For a steady state, steady flow process, such as the ones we are going to encounter in our course. All the processes that we will encounter are steady state, steady flow processes. Okay. So if I consider a random domain, okay, this is just a general domain, generic domain. At some point we have an inlet of flow with a mass flow rate of m dot. I hope this is visible to you. I will increase the size. At some point we have a mass flow rate m dot with velocity vi, enthalpy hi, and this point is at a height zi from some reference plane. Okay, it is at a height zi from some reference plane. Other point. Connection drop. Can you? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The screen is visible also, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. This internet connection is poor because I am traveling. So anyway, so again, let me just explain. So we are going through the first law of thermodynamics for a steady state, steady flow process. Flow is entering with velocity vi and enthalpy hi at some reference height zi from a reference plane and with a mass flow rate of m dot undergoes some process in the control volume and goes out from another point at a height ze from the same reference point with velocity v, enthalpy he. Okay, mass flow rate is same m dot because it's a steady flow process, steady flow rate remains same, and because it is a steady state process, this velocity or enthalpy at the inlet and outlet are not changing with time. Okay. Also in the control volume, we have a constant heat input rate of Q dot Cv and a constant work output rate from the control volume of W dot Cv. Okay, heat input is Q dot Cv and work output is W dot Cv. So first law of thermodynamics tells us that the energy is conserved basically. So we can balance the energy that comes in and goes out of this control volume. So if you consider all the energy that comes in into the control volume, we have this Q dot Cv which directly comes in through the boundary wall, and in addition to that, the flow itself brings some energy with itself. Okay, flow brings some energy with itself. What is the energy? It brings in enthalpy hi it comes in enthalpy HI, plus kinetic energy Vi square by 2, plus potential energy GZI, okay, multiplied by its mass flow rate. So m dot into HI plus Vi square by 2 plus GZI. So this is the total energy which comes into the domain. Second part comes from the with the flow, and first part comes directly. Now this is equal to the energy which goes out from the domain, which is equal to W dot Cv, which is the work output from the domain directly, plus the energy which goes out from the through with the fluid, which is equal to m dot into He plus V square by 2. H is the enthalpy, V square by 2 is the kinetic energy, and Gz is the potential energy. Now, typically in these processes of like whatever we consider in power plant engineering, the change in kinetic energy and potential energy is very, very less as compared to the change in enthalpy. So we are going to ignore this change in kinetic energy and potential energy. Okay. If we ignore this change in kinetic and potential energy and divide the entire expression with the mass flow rate m dot, what we get is an expression per unit mass flow rate. Okay. So per unit mass flow rate, we get Q dot Cv by m dot is Q. So Q is the heat addition per unit mass flow rate, plus Hi, okay, enthalpy at the inlet, is equal to W. W is the work output per unit mass flow rate, plus He. He is the enthalpy at the outlet. This is the basic first law equation for a steady state steady flow process per unit mass flow rate. Q is the specific heat input, W is the specific work output, means work output per unit mass flow rate. Hi is the specific enthalpy at the inlet per unit mass flow rate at the inlet, and He is the specific enthalpy at the outlet. This is the first law equation that we are going to use for all of our processes in this very simple form. Any question on this first law equation? Are you confident about this equation? Means this you have read in your thermodynamics course. I am just giving you a revision of this part. It is just simple energy balance. Heat which is entering is equal to the energy which is entering is equal to the energy which is coming out of the domain. Okay. Any questions? Everyone is clear about this first law equation? This is the only equation that we need for this point at this point regarding first law. So, couple of more thermodynamic relations are required for some of the processes. Okay. So, we will take a look at those, revise those other relations. So, work from 1 to 2 for any process can be calculated as integral of 1 to 2 PdV. Okay. So, 1 to 2 in specific terms per unit mass flow rate, we can write this 1 small w2 is equal to 1 to 2 capital P into d small v. Small v is specific volume, okay, per unit mass, whatever is the volume per unit mass. So work input is or work output is 1 to 2 PdV. Okay. Then another form of first law tells us that delta Q minus delta W is equal to du. Okay. So delta Q is the change in the or heat addition, net heat addition to the cycle. Delta W is net work output from the cycle. This is equal to the net change in internal energy. Okay. This is another form of first law. Delta Q minus delta W equal to du. This we will not require, but I am writing here to derive the TdS relations. Okay. So if you draw a cycle, net heat addition cycle means the entire cycle, means a cyclic process. So there is no mass flow rate in entering the domain or mass flow rate going out of the domain. Only energy transfer is heat addition or work output. So the net change in energy of a substance is equal to the heat addition minus work output. As simple as that. Okay. Delta Q minus delta W is the net change in energy, du, internal energy. So the delta Q can be written as TdS. Okay. Temperature into change in entropy, TdS, is equal to du plus this delta W can be written as PdV. Okay. So this is known as a TdS relation. You must have read about it also. TdS is equal to du plus PdV. This can be also written in another form. by writing H is equal to U plus PV. Do you know what is H? H you have read, right? Enthalpy. So how is DH and DU related?
dH equals to d of U plus PV.
DU plus PV. No. H is equal to U plus PV.
Yes, sir.
H
Yes,
is
that's what I was saying. dH equals to d of U plus PV.
D of U plus PV in entire U plus PV. Okay. So if you write separate terms, it is the du plus PdV plus VdP. Okay. Means you have to differentiate all the terms. So then you can just remove this du plus PdV. So it will be dH minus VdP. You can just do it in one line. Okay. So TDS is also equal to dH minus VdP. Okay. So these two equations are very, very important in thermodynamics. These are known as TDS relations. Okay. They relate the entropy to the change in internal energy and pressure volume. Okay. And per unit mass, we can write this as T small s. Means all the variables will be small variables is equal to du plus PdV and TDS is equal to dH minus VdP. Where small s, small h, small v denote the specific values of entropy. Small h is enthalpy, small u is internal energy, and small v is specific volume. Okay, per unit mass. T and P obviously there is no change per unit area. So only the other properties they change per unit mass. So these three relations you need to remember. Q plus HI is equal to W plus HE, and TDS is equal to DU plus PdV, or TDS is equal to DH minus VdP. These are the three most important relations for our course. Let us come back to the pump now and apply the first law. So first law was Q plus HI is equal to W plus HE. Okay. So for the pump, inlet condition is H1. Okay. Enthalpy is H1 at the inlet. And what is the heat addition Q? It is equal to 0 because there is no heat addition. There is no heat transfer. We are considering it as an adiabatic process, isentropic process. This is equal to pump work output WP dash. Okay, I am writing dash for a certain reason. I am writing this. So generally in traditional thermodynamics, the sign convention is such that any heat input is taken as positive and any work output is taken as positive. So positive work output from the pump I am writing as WP dash. But we know that pump will not give us work output. We need to provide some work to the pump to actually increase the pressure of the fluid. Okay. So in actual case, the work output is negative. So that is why I am writing as a WP dash. Later I will write the WP using opposite sign convention. It will be clear in a minute. Okay. So WP dash plus the
So your voice is breaking.
call comes on the other SIM, the internet goes away. So I have switched off the SIM. Now it should be okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now you're audible.
Oh, good. Sorry for the disruption. So anyway, so this is our first law or application of first law for the pump. Okay, Q is 0 So pump work output, okay, the way we have written, this is the traditional, using the traditional sign convention. So pump work output WP dash is equal to H1 minus H2. Now H1 will be less than H2, okay. So this is actually negative. Now according to traditional thermodynamics, sign convention says that WP is negative, means WP dash is negative, pump working. But for our power plant course or for normal typical engineering, we consider the pump work as the work which is provided to the pump. Okay, the positive work which is provided to the pump. Okay, and take care of the sign convention using common sense. Means that any work we are going to consider as positive, but we will accordingly change the signs. Means if we are providing work to the pump and consider that 10 kilojoule of work is provided to the pump, we will subtract this work from the turbine work. Okay. So I have written it also here. According to thermodynamic sign convention, WP dash is negative as work provided to the pump. I don't know what I have written is, but that is WP dash, it should be WP dash, is negative work output. Okay. However, for power plant engineering, we will consider pump work. Let us consider another symbol WP, okay, to be a positive term. So such that WP is equal to minus WP dash. Okay. So this WP is the work input to the pump, not the work output. Work output from the pump is WP dash. Work input to the pump is WP. Obviously, sign will be opposite. So work input to the pump is H2 minus H1. So although I have written in this form, typically we just consider this form WP is equal to H2 minus H1. We ignore all this previous discussion. Okay. So you can say that we increase the enthalpy of the fluid from 1 to 2 by providing certain amount of work. Okay. So this work that we provide is equal to the increase in enthalpy of the fluid from H1 to H2. How do you know that the enthalpy is increasing? Because the temperature is increasing slightly. Okay, temperature is increasing slightly, and because the temperature is increasing, we know that the enthalpy, which is a strong function of temperature, is also increasing. Okay, in the liquid state, enthalpy is a strong function of temperature. It is like Cp dt or Cp into T. This work input to the pump is H2 minus H1. Up to this point, is it clear or any confusion is there? I'm going very slowly and gradually we will pick up the pace. But because this is a transition for you and you have read thermodynamics long back, so it is necessary to go very slowly at this initial position, initial part. Input is H2 minus H1. Okay. So now we will use the TDS relation. Using the TDS relation, so there is a problem with this H2 minus H means work calculation of pump. Okay. Directly we cannot calculate this point H2. This H2 is in subcooled region, and at this point you are even not sure how to calculate H1, H3, H4. But once we go through the steam tables in the next class, these things will be clear to you. Okay. And you will see that although H1, H3, H4, these points are very easy to calculate based on known quantities, saturated liquid, saturated vapor, two-phase region. In the subcooled region, there is no data for us to calculate. So point 2, it is not possible to directly get the value from the tables. Okay. So we calculate it using the relation, TDS relations. Okay. So how do we calculate it? We know that using a TDS relation, TDS is equal to DH minus VDP. Okay, the second relation. TDS is equal to DH minus VDP. Now, as the process is isentropic, DS is 0 because there is no change in entropy. So, for this pump process, DH is equal to okay, or 1 to 2 DH is equal to 1 to 2 VDP, or H2 minus H1 is almost equal to V1 into P2 minus P1. Why I am saying almost? What assumption have I taken here? I have already written here, assuming that the specific volume remains constant. Okay. Otherwise, you cannot do this integral like this. So, if we assume that V is constant, we can take the V out of this integral. So, it will be V into dP going from 1 to 2. So V into P2 minus P1. And that V can be any V. We will take the V at the point 1. Okay. Why is it possible to take this assumption that V remains constant, almost constant?
So because
Any
water
answer?
is nearly incompressible, maybe because of that.
Yes, because this is the liquid part, right? We are considering the liquid portion of the cycle. And in the liquid condition, water has very less compressibility. It can change volume, but the change in volume will be very less. Okay. We can take a look at the tables. Anyway, we will go. I am going to show you in the next class, so you might get confused now. But just to show you what is the change in volume based on pressure. So at saturated condition, say at 10 kPa pressure, the volume is 0.001, specific volume is 0.00101 meter cube per kg. Okay. And say at 1 MPa pressure, it is 0.001127. Okay. So there is a change in specific volume, but the change occurs quite less. If you consider lesser changes in pressure, it will be very less, means it occurs, the change in specific volume is actually quite low. And because the pump work itself is quite low, okay, we can take this assumption that V is constant. We will see that pump work itself is quite low, so this small change due to this assumption does not affect the cycle calculation, like cycle efficiency much. So with this assumption, we calculate H2 minus H1 as V1 P2 minus P1. So if somehow H1 is known, say from the tables, we can get the value of H2 using this relation. H2 is equal to H1 plus V1 into P2 minus P1. P2 and P1 will be known because pressure will be given. We will see a problem in the next class. I will show you the steam tables and show you the problem also in the next class. We will go through a problem so that you get some feel of the values. So high pressure and low pressures are generally given, 10 MPa and 10 kPa or some typical values are given. So P2 and P1 are known. V1 can be seen from the table for the saturated liquid condition, what is specific volume. H1 can be obtained from the table, as we will be clear in the next class. So H2 can be calculated using this relation. Okay. So after this point, you now know both H1 and H2. Now we will use the first law equation for the boiler. Okay. What is the first law equation? Let us remind again ourselves. Q plus HI is equal to W plus HE. So for the boiler, there is heat addition. So Q is there. Q in plus enthalpy now is 2. So Q in plus H2 is equal to work output. Work output, there is no work output in the boiler. Okay, there is no rotating part or any work generation. So W is 0 plus enthalpy at outlet, which is H3. Or we can write the heat addition Q in is equal to H3 minus H2. Okay. So this point 3 will also be known from the tables. How it will be known? Because two conditions will be given, that this is saturated vapor or some other, and pressure is known here. Okay, so for saturated vapor and pressure, we can get the value from the table directly. So 0.3 H3 is known and H2 we have already calculated. So from this we can calculate what is the heat input to the cycle. Okay. This term is very important because this is required to calculate the efficiency. Q in is equal to H3 minus H2. Now if we consider the turbine, again use the first law. You remember the first law, Q plus HI is equal to W plus HE. So Q plus H3 is equal to W plus H4. Now Q is 0. Isentropic process, there is no heat exchange. So isentropic means it's also adiabatic. So Q is 0. So H3 is equal to work output from the turbine WT plus H4, or WT can be written as H3 minus H4. Okay. Enthalpy at 0.3 minus enthalpy at 0.4. Finding enthalpy 0.4 is slightly tricky. We will see how to find it in the next class. It has to be found using the entropy balance, that S3 is also equal to S4. Using that relation, we have to find the point H4. Okay. Otherwise, it is directly not possible. Let us consider that we know how to find this 0.4 at this moment. So then work output from the turbine is H3 minus H4. And lastly, applying the first law equation for the condenser. Again, the first law, Q plus H in is equal to W plus H out. So Q condenser plus H4 inlet condition is equal to W. So work output is 0 from the condenser. There are no moving parts. Plus H1. H1 is the exit condition. Okay. And for the condenser again, similar to the pump, for the condenser, the heat addition is negative because condenser heat, actually in the condenser you are taking out heat. So there is no heat addition, you are actually extracting heat. So this heat addition using the traditional sign convention will show you a negative value, H1 minus H4. Okay. So we will consider what is the heat extraction from the condenser, which is Q out, which is the negative of the heat addition minus Q condenser. And this Q out is equal to H4 minus H1. H4 minus H1 is a positive term and it is the amount of heat that is extracted from the condenser. So I will summarize again. For point 1 to 2, work input to the pump is equal to H2 minus H1. For the boiler, heat input is equal to H3 minus H2. For the turbine, work output is H3 minus H4. And for the condenser, heat output is H4 minus H1. So if you know the enthalpy at 1, 2, 3, 4, you can calculate all the values. Pump working, heat addition in the boiler, turbine work output, heat output from the condenser. All this can be calculated if you know 1, 2, 3, 4 enthalpy values. Okay. So when we will solve the problem in the next class, we will see that our main goal is to find the enthalpy values at the 4 points. And it is not difficult also. Okay. So now using the relation of thermal efficiency, we can write thermal efficiency of the cycle as the net work output by the heat addition from the high temperature reservoir. This is the expression of efficiency for a heat engine. If you go back to your thermodynamics, you will see that this is the expression of efficiency for a heat engine. And our power plant is a heat type of heat engine. Okay. So net work output by the heat input from the high temperature reservoir. So what is the net work output? Work output from the turbine, which is H3 minus H4, minus work input to the pump, which is H2 minus H1. So minus of H2 minus H1. So if this is 100 kilojoule and this is 2 kilojoule, so we will have to subtract 100 minus 2. So net work output will be 98 kilojoule. Okay. Divided by the heat addition in the boiler, which is H3 minus H2. So H3 minus H2. So this will give us the thermal efficiency of this cycle. Okay. We will stop here. I will show you the details. We will go through the details of the steam tables and quality and other things in the next class. And then we will jump into a problem to see how to actually solve the problem. So there are two purposes of solving the problem. One is to see how to solve the problem, like second to see what are the typical values that are involved. Okay. In a typical engineering problem, what are the types of values? It's whether it's 5 MPa or 500 kPa. What are the typical values that are in realistic values for processes like this? So we'll stop here. The note was already uploaded in the previous class, and it will be continued in the next class also. Please go through the thermodynamics book for this two-phase regions. It will be some beginning chapter, exact chapter number I don't know, but some initial chapter, like before the first law even. So some of the initial chapter where these things are explained, okay, or maybe around the first law part. Questions? Otherwise, we are going to stop the class today and we will continue our discussion on Wednesday's class. Please go through the material, because although the material is easy, and you will also feel that it is easy after a few days, because you may not remember the thermodynamics part right now, because it may seem slightly tricky for some of you. Once you get up to speed, you will see that everything is just following the same pattern. Okay, there is nothing much difference. So that's why once you have revised it for a few days, the thermodynamics part, it will become very easy. Let me just download the attendance. Okay. If there are no more questions, we are going to stop the